If you have questions, concerns, and are just lost when it comes to planning for retirement, meet Steve Hoyle and Derrick Caldwell of the Hoyle Financial Group. Now, I want to talk about 401ks, right? Because most of us are lucky enough to have one. And, recently they've come under some increased scrutiny because they were never intended to become a retirement plan. Well, wealth advisor Nicole Webb, she recently tells Fox Business that 401ks are for savings, of course, but yeah, they're not a plan.
They were the third leg of a stool. It was Social Security. And then what was more common when there was the inception of the 401k, which was a pension, the second leg. And then the third leg was this savings account, that excess bucket for additional liquidity that you could tap into over and above two fixed income streams. Now it's a lot of the onus of retirement savings has been put on the employee and only on the employee. And so it's really about getting ahead of don't make that the only place you're saving money. And how are you building out the three legs of your stool?
Okay, so a couple things here. The three legs of your stool. Yes, we've been using our 401k to, accumulate and save, but we're also looking for creating that guaranteed income. So how can you kind of, connect all these dots, Steve?
Well, just what I say is max out your 401k, but every dollar you save is taxable. So try to save a bunch of cash that's after tax and put that to work for you as well. It's so important. So when you get ready to retire, say you're 59 and a half, you can take your 401k and create an income strategy with us where you won't outlive that income the rest of your life. But most importantly, if you have a spouse, they won't either. But also, then we set up other income buckets along the way to turn on when the cost of living goes up so much. People say I have the same income every month, but I don't have the same buying power. Of course you don't. I used to tell people, Jess, we would turn those buckets on every 5 or 7 years. Today, it's every 2.5 or 3 years. So planning and getting ahead now and starting planning is everything. I really see people that take the time to plan. When you start thinking about that family vacation, think about the same time retirement planning. People spend months planning that trip in the summer, but then they don't spend any time on that final phase of life. I think the difference is when you really sit down, because the numbers never lie, and really figure out what retirement looks like for you. It's a lifestyle. It's a strategy. It's just so very important. Just people that are going to retire in a couple of years can take, maybe they have an old IRA, maybe an old 401k from an old employer. They can take that, put it into an income strategy, and start letting that roll up every year. That roll up at 9%. That income goes up every year. So down the road, let's say 3, 5, or even up to 10 years, crazy income in retirement. It's all about planning. It's all about making a phone call, and let's get started. A lot of people come to me, and they'll get on our website, retiretexastyle.com, and they'll say, Steve, tell me about that income plan. Just reach out to us. Let's get started. People say, well, I don't know what to do. Just call us. We'll help you take those steps. The first step is us getting to know you, you getting to know us, and make sure that we're aligned well. But most of all, in this economy, making sure you don't have a 30% reduction in your 401k or a 40%. I laugh a lot about it becoming a 201k. What I mean by that is if you lose half your money, people laugh and call it a 201k, but I'm telling you, Jess, it's serious out there. And, we have so many strategies where you can have the upside growth in the market, but not the downside risk. And if you alleviate those zeros with the S&P, it's amazing how much income you can have in retirement, but it's really being educated, looking at tax planning, looking at estate planning. As we talked about income planning, make sure you have the most successful Social Security plan you can have. And then don't forget about long-term care. It's about doing all of those things to have a successful retirement. That's what it's about. And just what I assure you is that income strategy and that 1 hour or 2 hour visit will change the future of your retirement. You really need to experience the Hoyle difference today.
And the Hoyle difference. And what we mean by that is when you sit down with, Steve, Derrick, Tiffany, a member of the team there, you're not just a number, right? I mean, you are somebody that you are part of the Hoyle family. We care about, how was your trip? How are the grandkids? Did so-and-so graduate? How was the surgery? I mean, you are a family. You're not just like, hey, sit down, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, here's your paperwork and get out. It is a family situation, Steve.
Absolutely. Whether you're in Austin, Dallas, Lockney, Texas, Lubbock, Texas, Midland, Odessa, Andrews, Seminole, Lubbock, wherever you are, we can always sit down and do a Zoom for the first appointment and get to know each other. And let's talk about what are those cornerstones that are really going to change your financial future. All starts. Holler at us. We want to help you.
It all starts with that phone call, 806-450-0799. It all starts with the phone call, 432-287-1946. Get more details, of course, on the website, retiretexasstyle.com. And, that's probably one of the most frequent questions we get, Steve, is, well, what do you mean retire Texas style? What's your answer to that?
Jess, it means retiring well, retiring bigger, retiring smarter, retiring larger, making sure that retirement is everything you want for you and your family. People come in and say it's just about the numbers. Absolutely not. It's 25% about the numbers, and I believe 75% about the emotions. Opposites attract, Jess. You have a couple come in, they're sitting across from the conference table. They both see retirement totally different what they want to do. But when they come together and have a common goal and figure out what they want to do, who's going to handle the remote control, who's going to drive the car, who's going to do those things like that, that's when the rubber hits the road and you really make it happen. So when you figure out that component of what you want to do, then we'll backtrack and model those numbers to what you want to do in retirement. It's just really simple, and it comes together. But, it's emotional. But once you have fixed that emotional component, retirement's a dream.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned the emotion part of it. I was talking to someone the other day that's preparing to retire maybe in the next month or two, and they're already starting this slow transition into it, going, oh my gosh, pretty soon no one's going to email me 10 times a day, and pretty soon I'm not going to have to be on conference calls and no one's going to need me. And they're terrified of getting older. They're terrified of this transition, just of feeling needed. And, you have an important role within your company, whatever it is. And now it's just kind of like, you went from, whatever your title is, Joe Smith, to just Joe Smith. And you are now in retirement. What are you going to do to fill your days, right? Have you found a way to give yourself purpose?
Well, it's really interesting, Jess. Couples spend 40 years working, they never see each other. And all of a sudden, they have 24/7 together. And those little things that kind of bug you become huge. I had a couple the other day, and she said, he opens the mail, and then he leaves them on my kitchen counter. It's the most nerve-wracking thing in the world. It's just interesting how those little things become big in retirement, Jess. I talk about retirement a lot. It's about doing a bunch of really small things well. But I think communication is where it all starts.
The Fed cut interest rates for the first time in 4 years, and they say they're not done yet. Its game plan is for a soft landing that avoids a recession. CNBC asked wealth manager Stephanie Link if she thinks we'll see one.
We peaked at 9.1% in inflation, and you're now running at about 2.5%. Maybe we just stay at 2.5%, but that would be fine, I think, because we're really close to where the Fed wants it to be. But, kind of just stepping back for a minute, September, we know, is usually an uneven month, and this year is no different because there are just a lot of uncertainties. You do have some concerns about growth slowing. Growth is slowing, but I don't think you're going into a recession. You're running at about 2% GDP. You've got the tech unwind, you've got the elections, a lot of unknowns, a lot of things to pick and choose from, but I do think there's opportunity.
Lots of unknown and uncertainty. She definitely hit the nail on the head there. And I want to know, Steve, if you agree with her that despite volatility in the markets and the election, all the different things out there, are there still opportunities we could take advantage of?
Absolutely. Jess, it's interesting. People always think, oh, well, I'm just going to see what the election does. I'm going to see what all these different factors are. And what I want to tell you is if you get your house in order for financial retirement, You don't have to worry about what's happening on Pennsylvania Avenue, what's happening on Wall Street, what the election does, any of that, because you have a track to run on. You have a strong strategy. No matter what happens, you're good to go. And I'm going to tell you, I think sometimes a recession has a lot of opportunities for people out there. It really does. So no matter what that market is, if you stay true to your school and keep on track with that plan, that written plan that you put together with us, that's what matters. Jess, our clients aren't freaked out right now. And a lot of them really took advantage of this high interest rate. A lot of them bought a 5-year, multi-year guaranteed annuity that's safe and it's guaranteed and it's got 5.15%. Huge rates out there. And there's still some rates for another week or two, I think. So, taking your money, making sure you have that emergency fund, and then being smart with those other buckets of money. Just people come to us, it's crazy, and they have 98% of their money in the market. It's crazy. They're 60 years old. With the rule of 100, the most you should have at that point is 40% in the market. Take your age from 100. And that's for the most risky investor. It's crazy. I've talked a lot about a friend of mine that has, 100% of his entire monies in his financial company that he works for stock. So not only is he risking his job every day, some bad news could wipe out his retirement in 2 afternoons.
Wow.
It's crazy. And I think it's so important to really understand that risk. But Jess, if you don't sit down with a professional and you don't really understand what your risk really is, you're too close to it. You can't make an educated decision. You need somebody to help you kind of paint that picture and decide if you want to go left or you want to go right or forwards or backwards. That's when you have that plan put together. It's everything. So we can talk about volatility all day long. I think the election has a lot to do with lowering another drop in the Fed rate, my opinion. It's interesting at the gas pump. Derrick makes fun of me. I wish he was with us today about gasoline. But oh my gosh, yesterday I filled up for $2.81. My car uses the mid-grade.
Good for you.
The $2.58 was how much the unleaded was. I mean, it's the election. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. So, and I also think there's a lot involved. I see a lot of people heavy in tech stocks. What's going to happen with the tech stocks? What's going to happen with fracking? What's going to happen with all of that stuff?
Right.
But we don't have to worry about it if we have a plan. So let's get your house in order. Call us. But, Jess, I think the first step is to sit down, get to know each other, and then you've got to figure out where you've gone, where have you been before you can figure out where you're going.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you there. And I love what you're talking about building your financial house because think of it. I mean, any home that you're ever going to buy or build, it all starts with the foundation. Then you start kind of, building the framework, building the walls. And that's exactly what we talk about here with your retirement plan. You have to have a foundation. You have to have a starting point. You got to have those supporting beams that are going to hold up the walls. Right. This is all part of that process. And again, remember, everybody's situation is going to be different. So you mentioned risk a few moments ago. Maybe you're at the age where you can afford to take more risks because you still have time to make it back. Right. If you're right on that, that finish line right there of retirement, you cannot afford for the market to take a big hit because you can't make it back. What that means is you're going to be working longer.
Exactly, Jess. We're a full-service firm. We offer managed money and Hoyle Wealth, all different types of instruments. So we can really sit down and help you figure out what's right for you. You're driving that bus. That's what's important. So if you want a plan, a track to run on, and you really want to come in and get a snapshot of where you are today and where you're going, call us or go on to retiretexasstyle.com. Most of all, we get to know each other. It's really just our family serving your family through retirement. That's what it's about.
The IRS forces everyone to take yearly required minimum distributions. You may have heard them be called RMDs from their pre-tax retirement accounts after reaching age 73. So You think that most people would carefully prepare, just knowing it's coming, right? There's big red flags. Hey, when you turn 73, you got to do this. But the fact is, even experienced investors make costly mistakes with their RMDs. Steve, what are some of the most common mistakes, and how can you help us avoid them?
Well, I think what happens is people all of a sudden find out, oh my gosh, I'm 73 and I've got to take an RMD, so just send me what I have, as opposed to somebody that makes a plan and uses that money for income and does it correctly. And if you sit down and do an income strategy with us, we can make those RMDs come out each and every month for you, and if you have a spouse, for your spouse, that neither one of you can outlive, and you can make that part of your income strategy. And right now, with inflation being so high, you don't want that amount to start going down every year as you deplete your money. So again, it starts with a plan, but getting started early is what it's about. But Jess, a lot of people make an error and then they don't take it, and it's a 25% penalty for not taking it. And it used to be that it was easy with the IRS. You could just send a letter and say, I messed up, and it'd go away. That's really not the case anymore. So it's important to have that strategy. It really, really is.
Yeah, I mean, this RMD strategy also, again, helping you be, tax efficient as well. We know the IRS, listen, they don't play, and they always change the rules. I mean, RMDs, by the way, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, they changed the age on this a few times, which is why it's crucial to sit down with somebody like Steve who's up to date on all this.
Absolutely, Jess. So they're going to probably change it to 75 eventually. They keep on talking about it. Now, if you're still employed at 73, you do not have to turn that on until you terminate your employment, which is important. But I think the other big thing, Jess, is people used to be able to, when both the IRA holder and the spouse pass away, or the 401k holder and the spouse, the one that has the qualified money, when it went to the next generation, you used to be able to stretch that money for the rest of your beneficiary's life. And now you can't do that. Now it's up to 10 years at the very most. So it's such a good time to look at maybe doing a Roth conversion, paying the taxes, get them out of the way for your generation and your kids' generation, or your nieces and nephews. Because, Jess, the big thing here is you're going to be in such a lower tax bracket than your kids will be. And I have so many people come in and say, it doesn't matter to me. Well, when you show them those numbers difference and the bang for the buck, it's the difference in a cake and a cake rising. I'm telling you, it's huge how much the government's going to get. Because what I know is people want to give the government the least amount. But I'm going to tell you, Jess, right now, we talk a lot about tax strategies because I don't care if you vote red, blue, or purple. It's called the Trump tax plan, but it doesn't have anything really to do with politics. But if that package is not renewed in 2026, you're going to see your taxes go up at least 30%. So it's a great time to really sit down and look at, if you did a Roth conversion, you could really get those taxes one and done out of the way, or maybe over the next 5 years. But having an efficient tax strategy is the difference in retiring and retiring well, or the difference between traveling to one country or 50 countries. It just, the exponential difference of wiping out those taxes is huge. And, Jess, people come to me and say, well, I don't want to pay that now. When I show them how much money in the future they have, it really makes sense. We have a lot of programs to really look at these different conversions and show you different options. But again, it's planning well. Did you fail to plan? Or plan to fail? It's so important, Jess. And I'm telling you, when people wake up one day and their taxes are up 28 to 30% more, they're going to go, Houston, we now have a problem. We see so many do-it-yourselfers out there. They're missing one part of that plan, and it's ruining their financial future. So I tell people, come see us at Hoyle. Let Derrick or I or one of our team members sit down. I can really assure you that I can find something different in your plan that will make a pivotal difference in your retirement. Just sitting down and, when you think about it, it's about income plan. It's about estate plan. It's about a tax plan. It's about a long-term care plan. It's about looking at your risk and making sure you don't have too much risk and it wiping out your plan. Let's just sit down and really get to know each other. It's funny. Back when I was 25 and started doing this, I didn't see so many problems in retirement for the next generation. But today, they're really there, Jess. And the people that plan, it's really making a difference for the next 3 generations. That's what it's about.
If you'd like to sit down with Steve and Derrick or a member of the Hoyle Financial Group, visit retiretexasstyle.com.
Investment advice offered through Hoyle Wealth Management, a Texas-registered investment advisor able to provide investment advice in states where it's registered, exempt, or excluded from registration. Content contained herein should not be construed as an offer or solicitation for investment advice or for the purchase or sale of any security, insurance, or other investment product. Investments involve the risk of loss, including possible loss of principal. Please consult with a qualified financial, tax, accounting, or legal professional before implementing any ideas or strategies discussed here. Content provided is obtained from sources believed to be reliable but cannot be guaranteed as to its accuracy or completeness. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance products, including annuities offered through Steve Hoyle, Texas Insurance License 716036. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. Read your contract for restrictions, limitations, or penalties. Steve Hoyle is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Steve Hoyle is licensed in your state, please call 806-371-9473.